I remember the night it all changed. It was early spring, around 2:43 a.m, when I jolted awake with a pain that made me sit straight up in bed. My calf was locked tight like a vice grip had clamped down on it. I couldn't stretch it out, I couldn't walk it off. I just froze there, clutching my leg in the dark, whispering through gritted teeth so I wouldn't wake my wife. That wasn't the first time, but it was the worst. The pain was sharp, and what followed was worse. Sleeplessness, anxiety, and a feeling of helplessness. I'm not in my 30s anymore, I know that. I'm 67, but still, something felt wrong. I tried rubbing it out. I tried drinking more water. Someone told me to put soap under my sheets. Didn't help. These cramps weren't just random, they were happening several nights a week, and each one seemed to last longer than the last. I'd start every morning tired and sore before my day even began. I began to wonder, was this just aging, or was my body trying to tell me something? One morning, after a particularly rough night, I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee and looked up. Leg cramps at night after 60. That's when I fell down the rabbit hole. Article after article, video after video, and one thing kept coming up: electrolyte imbalance. Not just dehydration, but low magnesium, low potassium, nutrient gaps in my diet I didn't even know existed. I thought I was eating healthy, some toast in the morning, soup at lunch, maybe some crackers or pasta for dinner. But apparently none of it was giving my muscles what they needed. That's when I made a decision. I'd try food as medicine. I'd stop chasing shortcuts and start rebuilding from the inside. And the first step? It started with something I used to avoid, an avocado. I never liked avocados much. To be honest, I thought they were just trendy food for people on Instagram. I'd walk past them at the store, grab a banana or maybe some apples instead. But after reading more, I realized I was missing something huge. Turns out avocados are one of the best natural sources of two minerals I was severely lacking: potassium and magnesium. And those two minerals, they play a central role in muscle contraction and relaxation. Without them, your muscles don't know when to stop tightening. That's what causes cramps. So I bought 2 avocados. I wasn't sure how to eat them, so I looked up a simple way. Sliced on toast, little sea salt, tiny drizzle of olive oil. First morning I ate half of one. Nothing magical happened, no lightning bolt, but I felt full in a clean way. My energy was steadier through the morning. No crash at 10:30 like usual. By the third day, something unexpected happened. I slept through the night. No cramp, no twitch, nothing. A fluke, I thought. Then it happened again and again. The science started to make sense. One avocado has around 700 milligrams of potassium, more than a banana, but with no sugar crash. It's also loaded with magnesium, which calms the nervous system and signals your muscles to relax. That was my missing piece. But the benefits didn't stop at my legs. I noticed I was less foggy. My hands stopped shaking when I wrote checks or held my morning mug. Even my blood pressure numbers, which had been creeping up, began to settle. My doctor said that healthy fats like those in avocados support heart rhythm and circulation. I wasn't taking supplements. I wasn't on a new medication. I had just added one food. But the difference was noticeable, and it gave me hope. It made me want to learn more, try more, so I stuck with it. Half an avocado in the morning, sometimes mashed on toast, sometimes added to a salad at lunch. Every day, no exceptions. Within a week my sleep was more restful. My legs felt more stable when walking, especially upstairs, and most of all I started to feel in control again, like my body was listening, finally responding to something simple. It was a small habit, but it set off a chain reaction. And once I felt that shift, I knew I couldn't stop there. There were still other foods I had overlooked, foods that could support my legs, my heart, and even my peace of mind. Coming up next, I'll tell you what came second, a food I used to see as just a side dish, but turned out to be my natural muscle recovery tool. Growing up in the South, sweet potatoes were part of every holiday meal. Baked with brown sugar and marshmallows, they were more dessert than health food. So when I started thinking about eating them regularly, it felt strange. But everything I read said sweet potatoes weren't just comforting, they were restorative, especially for older adults like me. They're one of nature's best sources of potassium, magnesium and calcium, the exact minerals my muscles needed to function properly. That got my attention. After a few leg cramps at night, I'd started tracking what triggered them. Turns out, Long walks in the park or even gardening in the sun would bring them on later that evening. I wasn't just tired, I was depleted. I was sweating out the minerals my body desperately needed to move, rest and recover. So I gave sweet potatoes a proper try. Not the sugary casserole kind, just simply roasted, olive oil, a pinch of sea salt, maybe some turmeric and black pepper if I was feeling fancy. The taste brought back memories, but the effect brought something new. Relief. See, unlike white potatoes, sweet potatoes digest slowly. They give you steady energy without spiking your blood sugar. That mattered to me, especially as someone managing borderline blood sugar numbers, and because they're full of complex carbs, they rebuild the muscle glycogen you lose after activity. One afternoon, after raking leaves for nearly an hour, I usually would have had back cramps by dinner, but this time I didn't. I'd eaten half a sweet potato for lunch, paired with spinach and a few pumpkin seeds. Simple, grounding, and apparently effective. By the end of the first week, I was sleeping deeper. My legs felt less twitchy, especially at night. I started looking forward to that soft, warm texture on my plate, not as a treat, but as a kind of recovery tool. Something I knew was helping me heal. Then I learned sweet potatoes are also rich in beta-carotene. That's the antioxidant your body turns into vitamin A, which supports your vision, skin and immune system. For someone in their 60s, that's no small thing. My night vision had been fading, and now I had a natural way to support it. It amazed me how something so old-fashioned could be so functional. And the best part, it didn't feel like I was on a diet. It felt like I was finally eating the way my body had been asking me to all along. I just hadn't known how to listen. A few slices of roasted sweet potato a few times a week, that was it. But the benefits kept adding up. My balance felt steadier, I had fewer afternoon crashes, even my digestion improved. And that's when I knew this wasn't just food anymore, it was medicine. Coming up next, I'll tell you about the smallest change that made the biggest difference. A snack I used to ignore, until I realized it held the power to calm my legs and help me sleep through the night. It started one night, around 2 a.m. I was woken up by a sudden twitch in the arch of my right foot. Then my calf seized. The kind of cramp that makes you shoot out of bed, desperate for relief. I'd already started eating avocados and sweet potatoes more regularly, but something was still missing. That's when I remembered reading about pumpkin seeds, how they were packed with magnesium, the muscle-relaxing mineral most people don't get enough of, especially after 60. I'd always passed them by in the grocery store. They looked too small to matter, but at that point I was willing to try anything. I bought a bag of raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds, the plain kind, nothing roasted or seasoned. That evening I ate a small handful with a few slices of apple before bed. It didn't seem like much, but that night, no cramp. The next day I looked into the science. Just 1 ounce of pumpkin seeds can provide up to 40% of your daily magnesium needs. Not only that, but they also contain zinc, a mineral that becomes harder to absorb with age, yet plays a key role in nerve signaling, muscle repair, and even mood. What struck me most was how natural it felt. I wasn't popping a pill, I was eating real food, something my body knew how to digest, how to use, and it didn't stop with fewer cramps. I started noticing I was sleeping deeper. I didn't toss and turn as much. My thoughts weren't racing before bed. Turns out magnesium also helps regulate melatonin, the hormone that tells your body it's time to sleep. I even started sprinkling pumpkin seeds over salads, adding them to my oatmeal in the morning or blending them into smoothies. I kept a small jar on the counter so I wouldn't forget. After a couple of weeks, I realized my recovery after physical activity had improved. I didn't wake up sore after cleaning the garage or mowing the lawn. My muscles felt calmer, less reactive. Even more surprising, my energy felt more stable during the day. I wasn't reaching for coffee at 3 p.m. My afternoon snack wasn't cookies or crackers anymore, just a few pumpkin seeds and maybe a square of dark chocolate. Simple, nourishing. Looking back, I wish someone had told me sooner that cramps weren't just something to tolerate with age, that food could fix them, that something so small, a seed, could hold so much power. And the truth is, the more consistently I ate them, the better I felt. It wasn't about instant results. It was about rebuilding from the inside out, one handful at a time. Coming up next, I'll share a remedy I almost skipped, a sour, simple liquid you've probably walked past on the shelf for years. But for me, it helped unlock better digestion, steadier blood sugar, and even more restful sleep. I'll admit it. I used to think apple cider vinegar was one of those health fads people on the internet talked about too much. Sour, smelly, and something I assumed belonged in salad dressing, not in my daily routine. But one evening I came across a short story from a woman in her 70s who swore a tablespoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar in water before bed helped stop her nighttime cramps. It sounded too simple, too strange. Still, I was curious. That night I mixed 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar into a glass of room temperature water. I added a slice of lemon to soften the taste and drank it slowly while winding down with a book. I didn't expect much, but the next morning I realized something had shifted. My legs had felt calm all night, no twitches, no aching. I hadn't even woken up once. That might not sound like much to someone younger, but when you're in your 60s or beyond, a full night of peaceful sleep is a gift. So I made it part of my ritual. Each night, 1 teaspoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, the kind with the mother floating inside, mixed into a small glass of water. I started looking forward to it, like a signal to my body that it was time to rest. "Give me a second," he said, breathing heavier than usual. Again, he brushed it off. "Must be allergies," he said, but he didn't have allergies. When the arteries in the heart start to narrow, it limits oxygen flow. You might not feel chest pain, but you'll feel winded, doing things that used to feel easy. If walking up a flight of stairs starts leaving you breathless, pay attention. Third, mild discomfort in the back and shoulders. 2 nights before he died, Jack mentioned a weird crick in his upper back, said he probably slept wrong. But here's what many don't know, especially men. Heart attack pain doesn't always show up in the chest. For some, especially those with high blood pressure or diabetes, the pain radiates. It shows up in the arms, neck, jaw, or back. Fourth, restless sleep and early waking. Laura had noticed Jack was tossing more in bed, getting up at 3 or 4 a.m., pacing, checking the thermostat, sipping water. He said he just couldn't get comfortable. But sleep disruption, particularly early waking with anxiety or unease, is a subtle red flag. In cardiology, we often call this prodromal insomnia, the body's way of signalling that something's not right internally, even before clear symptoms hit. Fifth, emotional changes. This one is the hardest to talk about. Jack had been quieter, a little more irritable, less engaged, not depressed, but distant. He wasn't himself. And this matters because changes in mood, especially increased anxiety, restlessness, or feeling off, can be the body's nervous system reacting to low-grade heart stress. Jack didn't know this. Most people don't. But had any one of these signs prompted a checkup, had they even just called the doctor and said something feels off, we might have seen the pattern. We might have run an EKG, we might have caught the blockage, and Jack might have still been here. These red flags were silent, but not invisible. And here's the part that matters to you. If you're over 50 and feel like your body has changed, your energy, your breath, your sleep, your mood, don't explain it away. Don't assume it's age, don't chalk it up to stress or weather or being out of shape. It could be your heart, and it could be trying to whisper before it screams. Jack missed the signs. So did his wife. So did I, until it was too late to help him. You don't have to. The next part of this story is what you can do today, this week, to protect yourself from the same fate. Because the good news is, silent doesn't mean irreversible. Not if you act in time. Let me take you behind the scenes, into what actually happens in the body when someone like Jack has what we call a silent or atypical heart attack. First, understand this. Not all heart attacks come with chest-clutching pain. In fact, for older adults, especially those over 60, men with diabetes and postmenopausal women, the symptoms are often vague, misread or mistaken for something else entirely. But inside the body, the crisis is very real. Here's how it unfolds. A heart attack begins when one of the coronary arteries becomes blocked. Most commonly, this is due to a plaque rupture, a fatty deposit that breaks open inside the artery wall. The body responds the same way it would to an external wound, by sending platelets to the site. But instead of healing, those platelets form a blood clot right inside the artery. Within moments, that clot begins to restrict or completely stop blood flow to part of the heart muscle. Without oxygen-rich blood, heart muscle tissue begins to die within minutes. If that artery stays blocked for too long, usually beyond 30 minutes, significant and often irreversible damage occurs. In some cases, like with Jack, the blockage can trigger a sudden electrical disturbance, a fatal arrhythmia like ventricular fibrillation. That's often when someone just drops. No warning, no time to react, no second chance. Now, why don't some people feel pain? Here are the three main reasons. 1. Nerve desensitization. In older adults, especially those with diabetes, the nerves that carry pain signals from the heart to the brain can be dulled. It's called diabetic neuropathy, and it can make heart pain feel muted or absent entirely. 2. Referred or atypical pain patterns. Instead of feeling pain in the chest, the signal may be interpreted by the brain as discomfort in the neck, shoulders, jaw, or upper back. That's why Jack's crick in his back and his shortness of breath weren't recognized as cardiac symptoms. The heart was sending alarms, but they came in a foreign language. 3. Gradual onset. Not all heart attacks happen suddenly. Some develop slowly, over hours or even days. This gives the body time to adapt to the discomfort. You might feel off, tired, maybe nauseous, but not enough to panic. These types are especially dangerous because people wait, hoping they'll feel better. But meanwhile, the heart muscle is dying. Now, here's a truth I wish more people understood. A heart attack doesn't have to kill you, delay does. Most people who die from heart attacks never make it to the hospital. Not because the attack was untreatable, but because help didn't arrive in time. Jack's heart attack was likely survivable if it had been caught early, if the signs had been understood, if someone had connected the dots between his fatigue, shortness of breath and back pain, if he'd been on medication to manage his plaque risk, if he'd had a recent stress test. That's what makes these silent attacks so cruel. Because it's not that they didn't happen, it's that no one saw them coming until it was too late. But now you do know. You know what to watch for. You know what questions to ask your doctor. You know that being tired, out of breath or slightly off isn't always just a part of aging. In the next section, I'll walk you through the specific steps you can take today to lower your risk. Simple, actionable and proven. Because once you understand how silent heart attacks work, you begin to see they're only silent if we ignore them, and now you won't. I've often asked myself, as Jack's physician and friend, what could have changed the outcome? It's not about blame, it's about learning, about honouring his memory by making sure his story doesn't repeat itself. So here are 7 simple but powerful steps that may have saved Jack and can absolutely protect you or someone you love. 1. Get a heart health screening every year. This sounds basic, but many seniors skip it, especially if they feel fine. But feeling fine doesn't mean your arteries are. A standard checkup should include blood pressure, cholesterol panel, HDL, LDL, triglycerides, blood glucose or A1C test, possibly an EKG or stress test if risk factors are present. Had Jack had a full screening, we might have spotted elevated blood pressure or early signs of heart strain before his heart gave out. Prevention starts with detection. 2. Know the atypical symptoms of a heart attack. We've talked about these already, but let's list them again for clarity. Sudden extreme fatigue, shortness of breath during light activity or rest, nausea, indigestion or upper abdominal pain, lightheadedness or fainting, pain in jaw, neck, shoulder or upper back. Cold sweats not tied to heat or exertion. Jack had at least 3 of these in the week before his death. Knowing them and acting on them could have changed everything. 3. Keep chewable aspirin nearby. If Jack had taken 325 milligrams of chewable aspirin the moment he started feeling pressure or unusual shortness of breath, it could have thinned the blood just enough to buy time, just enough to restore a bit of flow before total blockage. Keep aspirin in your nightstand, in your wallet or purse, by your recliner or TV remote, and most importantly, chew it. Don't swallow it whole. 4. Walk 30 minutes a day. Jack used to walk regularly when his wife was alive. After her passing, his walks stopped. Movement strengthens your heart, lowers your blood pressure, improves insulin sensitivity, and reduces plaque buildup. It's not about speed. It's about consistency. Even 10-minute intervals matter. Get a dog, join a walking group, or just put on music and walk around your house. Movement is medicine, especially after 60. 5. Ask your doctor about a coronary calcium scan. This is a low-radiation CT scan that checks for calcified plaque in your arteries. It's fast, non-invasive, and one of the best tools to spot heart disease before it becomes a crisis. Had Jack done this scan, we might have seen his risk and put him on a statin or blood thinner. It's not for everyone, but for many over 60, it's a game changer. 6. Manage stress proactively. Jack never talked much about stress, but after his wife passed, it lived quietly inside him. Loneliness, financial worry, regret. These things weigh on the heart, not metaphorically, but literally. Chronic stress raises cortisol levels, stiffens arteries, and increases the risk of arrhythmias. You can't eliminate stress, but you can buffer it. Practice deep breathing for 5 minutes a day. Call a friend just to chat. Join a local support group or hobby club. Spend time in nature. Mental peace is physical protection. 7. Create a personal emergency plan. Jack lived alone. He had no emergency system, no alerts set up, and his phone wasn't within reach. If you live alone or know someone who does, set up medical ID on your phone, use a smartwatch with fall detection, keep emergency contacts labelled ICE in case of emergency.